Hi, the Islamic Dad here. I want to do a video on my personal experiences with narcissistic rage and also what I refer to as snapping. I don't know if there's a more accurate word that has already been used in kind of the psychological community or specifically to narcissists. It's similar to like a psychotic break, but because it's dealing from the perspective of someone with narcissism, I don't feel comfortable saying psychotic break. But that case, either way. Um, so narcissistic rage. When you are arguing with a narcissist, there will be times where there's a threshold crossed. And in my own experience, that is when, something gets a little bit too deep or too close to the narcissist, meaning not necessarily that that's what you intended, but that's how they perceived it, where, narcissists basically are these monsters that are just running on guilt, shame, inadequacy, insecurity, and this shell, the mask that they've built to go through life. And so when you pierce through the mask and you start touching on some of the deeper issues with like the guilt, shame, insecurity, inadequacy, they explode. And the thing is, again, like, it's not necessarily that you're trying to, it's that that's how they perceive it. So, with my ex-wife, there were a couple times where we might have, verbal disagreement, argument, and it would reach a point in the discussion where she would feel that she was being, personally attacked, whether or not I was being personal, and it would cross that threshold, and she would get what I refer to as crazy eyes, kind of just the all black, unblinking giant eyes, kind of, flushed red in the face a bit, screaming at 130 decibels, and just vicious, just going below the belt, just going from the point where you're no longer even attempting to argue about a particular subject. And arguing with narcissists, they're going to be deflecting and shifting blame and coming up with excuses and stuff like that. My experience is like when you cross that threshold and they go into the narcissistic rage, they no longer are even concerned with deflecting or ownership or the topic. They're attacking. Period. They are just simply foaming at the mouth, trying to go below the belt, be as cruel and mean as possible. And like I think I mentioned in like a previous video, like the things that you may have told them in confidence that you had never told anyone else, and you told them 3 years ago, they filed that away, and they when they go in the narcissistic rage, they pull it out, turn it 180 degrees, and they turn it into a grenade, and they lob it right back at you. I mean, they are vicious. Every single secret, private truth, any, personal fear, personal dream, all that just becomes your ammunition. So that is like the narcissistic rage. And then there is something which I call snapping, where it goes past that threshold to like a whole other level. I don't even know I mean, I hate to use this analogy, but it reminds me of Dragon Ball Z, where they go Super Saiyan, and their hair turns blonde, and they're going and like they just like are full of energy and stuff. Um, that's kind of what they're like when they go from narcissistic rage into snapping. It's nuts. One experience I had with my ex-wife, like this, and to give you especially an idea of how quickly it can change. This is a point in the separation where we had a lot of work to do, just regarding the legality of the divorce and stuff. And so we had a meeting to discuss, I think, custody, and to a lesser extent, splitting up some of the finances. So we met in a Starbucks, nice, safe, neutral, public place. And we're sitting down, and we both have our little notebooks and our pens, and we're writing notes, and we have our papers and stuff. And we're talking and discussing things, and the topic of custody agreement comes up, as far as like what do we want to do as far as the children, post divorce. And she proposes something so horrible. I'm not even going to repeat it on YouTube. It is it's crazy, and to think, okay, you gave birth to these two children, you raised them for over a decade, and now you're telling me this is what you want to have happen? I mean, it was dark. It was really inhuman, just, and bizarre too. So anyway, she got, she just, straight to my face proposes this like it's normal. And I was in shock, and I was just like, no, I cannot believe that you just proposed that. And like, and I came back and I said, let me get this straight. You're proposing that what we do with custody of the kids is we, divide up custody this way? That's insane. Like, and she, was already getting, I guess, frustrated or angry because I had called her on her insanity. I mean, just their viciousness. And I think it touched something deep. It got her attention. And I was just like, and I made a gesture with my hands, like, wow. And when I went like that, she acted like a hand grenade had gone off in the middle of the table. She exploded back in her chair, knocking her chair over, just trembling, shaking, grabbed her pen, grabbed her pad, and goes, doing this weird, shuffling run out of Starbucks, knocking over empty chairs and stuff, and slamming the door open. And at that point, Starbucks is completely silent, and everyone's just turned and staring at her. Because, I mean, everyone there saw that, like, nothing had happened. And she just went shuffling, running off to her car and speeding off. And the closest analogy that I can give when I've explained these type of incidents to other people, it's like in those movies where they have the Vietnam vet. And the Vietnam vets, say, at the restaurant with the family, and there's a waiter, and he drops a plate with lots of silverware on top, and it clangs to the floor, makes this horrible loud noise, and it freaks the Vietnam vet has PTSD, and it just startles him, and so he goes underneath the table, and he's trembling, and he starts screaming, and he's maybe saying things about Charlie and getting in the foxhole, and I don't know, holding the line. Just, in his mind, he's back in Vietnam and he is under attack. But the reality is he's in a restaurant and it's 10, 20 years later. And so, that's kind of how I, explain that. With my ex-girlfriend, again, she had these, a couple times where she would snap. One of them was when, we had gotten back from, a date night and it had gone, off. We went to a restaurant and instead of going to like a club afterwards, it was just like, I don't feel up to it. Let's go home. And so we went home, or went to her place, and she had been really quiet and distant and not fun to be around at that point. And so I just put on my coat and I just said, look, I'm just gonna go ahead and go home. And for whatever reason, it just kind of, and Sean was like, well, why? It's like, well, you're tired. You said you didn't want to go to the restaurant or to the club because you're tired. It's late. Look, we had fun. It was a really good dinner. And that was a good evening. I'm disappointed. I was really looking forward to going, dancing at the club, with you tonight. Maybe next week we can, but I'm gonna head out. And just blah, 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 blah. And so that brought on like the arguing, which kind of slowly ramped up to that threshold to where it went into the narcissist rage, and she kind of had like the crazy eyes and the 130 decibels. And then I just kept just kind of trying to leave, but at the same time just trying to respond to what she was saying, just even-handedly. And for whatever reason, it's like boom, snap. And so one moment she's in a narcissistic rage, and so she's being insulting, and making digs and stuff like that, but she's still present. She is still in her house. She is still talking to me. She is still there with me at 10 o'clock at night on a Saturday, still very much present. And then boom, then she's not. And all of a sudden she just like goes into this like sumo pose with her arms out and is like, ah! And starts screaming at like 130 decibels, just almost like chanting at me, just yelling at me. And it was insane. And the thing is, like, I'm not going to repeat back, what she was saying, but she was responding to something that was not happening. I mean, it would be like something like as crazy as, this isn't what she was saying, but this is like the example, like as if she was like all of a sudden, in the middle of an argument, just starts screaming, I don't want a snow cone. I don't want a snow cone. I don't want a snow cone. And you're thinking, no one's trying to give you a snow cone. No one's selling snow cones. It's winter. Why would anyone be, thinking about snow cones? I mean, it was literally that insane because it was in response to something that was not happening in reality, but obviously was very much what she was experiencing in her head. And so the second time she snapped, I'm not going to go into too much detail, but again, it was that same kind of ramp. We had a discussion. a bit of a contention, disagreement, argument, up to the narcissistic rage, crazy eyes, dig, 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 throwing stuff from 3 years ago, trying to, really, really say some things to, really get to me, really hurt me bad. And um, then snap. And at that point, um, she was insane. I mean, she was acting insane. It was not simply verbal. She was acting insane. And, at that point, that was kind of the, last incident of our relationship. Because honestly, at that point, it's like, you're not safe to be around. Um, Again, like that's, it's one thing to be like, oh, I don't think this relationship's going to work or something like that. But when it becomes dangerous, that makes things very, very simple, very black and white. And it's like, no, my safety is important to me. I'm out. And so, again, but it was one of those situations where what she was reacting to was not happening. So, again, that's something that I refer to as snapping, just going from like where they're present. They might be furious, they might even be in a narcissistic rage, but they're there. They know where they are, they know who you are, they know what's happening, and then snap, and they're off in la la land. And so, yeah, I mean, I'd be curious to, read the comments if anyone else has, one, experienced this, and two, is there like a specific phrase that would be appropriate to use? Because, I mean, we could throw psychotic break. I don't think that's necessarily that wrong, but I think there's already enough confusion with people blurring the lines between narcissist, sociopath, and psychopath that I try to stay clear of, terms like that. So, but anyways, I'd be interested to read your comments. Hopefully, this has been helpful.